welcome back to In the Booth. I'm Shawn Booth, and we are still in November. Hopefully your mustaches are growing in nice and strong. We're still working on Andrew's back there. If you haven't yet joined my Movember team, help us raise awareness for men's health. It is a fantastic cause. I've worked with them for years, so let's see it. Even if you're a female, you can just hop on the page, donate, and just work out, exercise, move, whatever you got to do. Other than that, hopefully you guys are having a great day. We appreciate your support as always. Maybe you're tuning in from Tallahassee today. Maybe you are in Nebraska. Maybe you're in Idaho. Wherever you are, we appreciate the support. You can watch all of our episodes on YouTube. And we are in Nashville, Tennessee. And today I'm very excited for our guest. As you know, I've got a baby coming in a few weeks. Life has been crazy. And I looked at my Whoop group today and my sleep performance, I am last out of about 30 people. All right. So I am sleep deprived, been working a ton, and no better person to have in the studio than our guest here. He is a former NFL athlete. He's also the co-founder of Dream Recovery, which is a company dedicated to helping athletes and high achievers sleep and recover at the highest level. He has worked with Fortune 500 companies, professional athletes across all sports, and celebrities on optimizing their performance. He continues to produce educational content on all media platforms to educate people on sleep and its importance and positive impact on quality of life. Everybody, the Sleep King. Give it up for Todd Anderson.
Thanks for having me, man.
Welcome.
Appreciate it.
So you're the sleep guy.
I make people sleepy. That's pretty much it.
Awesome. How did you decide to dedicate your life to helping others and optimizing their sleep and performance?
Yeah, so it kind of fell into it. So I originally was in like the strength conditioning world. I started in college. I walked down to Michigan State and figured out very quickly I was nowhere near the talent level I needed to be to play there, and became quickly obsessed with human performance, like a lot of people do, working out and stuff. But as time went on and I learned more and I got to be around some really great doctors and specialists, I realized like if you really want to make an impact in somebody's life, you have to start with sleep. Like one, it'll have the greatest impact, and two, it'll pay off for the rest of their life and just really allow them to achieve probably more than they ever would if they didn't focus on it.
Right. So what do you say to those people who are just like, I only need 4 hours of sleep, 5 hours of sleep? Is it something where it's like everybody's body is different, or is there actual studies out there that are like, hey, you need to hit this many hours each night?
Yeah. So just for reference, I get that all the time. A lot of times people say I only need 6 hours and I'm great, I'm good. And just statistically, so like if you're on 737, that's like a standard airplane. Statistically on that entire flight, only one person could function optimally off of 6 hours of sleep. So yes, there's some people that only need that much sleep, but it's very, very far and few between. So like when people tell me that, I'm like, you must be very confident in your luck,
right? Or
just willing to roll the dice. Chances are they're just like used to it, because you can be used to being chronically underslept. Like you don't really have perspective. You've only been yourself. You've only slept as yourself. So if you wake up functioning at a certain level for years, like that's your new norm. Whereas you don't really know how you can actually feel when you're sleeping the right amount.
Yeah, because I'll see videos on Instagram and it'll be like, there's obviously a lot of motivational speakers. Some are kind of just BS, and some guys are like, I get 3.5 hours of sleep. That's all I need. And then I get up at 2:30 in the morning, and I'm like, brutal. That is
6 hour meditation.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I'm like, that's also, detrimental to the people that are watching and following them, being like, all right, well, this guy's doing it on 3 hours of sleep. Maybe I can too.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those guys are like, self-help, business, entrepreneurs. And I'm like, okay, great. You're sleeping for 3 or 4 hours and you're building, let's say this, I don't know, $100 million business, but your quality of life by the time you're 50 years old is going to be brutal.
Right.
Like when you look at like Alzheimer's, dementia, cognitive function, like what's the point of grinding it like that if you can't even enjoy it when you're older?
Right.
So you got to think about, it might be working for now, but you're going to burn it at both ends. And like at what expense? Like it's going to catch up with you.
Yeah.
The studies, the science is pretty clear. Like you can't sustain that, and eventually it's all going to come crumbling down. But the problem is, I think people don't realize is it's not gradual, like the effects of that. It kind of ramps up quickly, almost exponentially, kind of similar to like compound interest. So once you really start feeling the residual effects of chronically undersleeping, like with neurodegenerative disease, when you start having some substantial symptoms, like you're far down the path. Like this has been building up for a long time. So I think it's cool now though, like people in their 20s, 25, 30-year-olds are actually thinking about this stuff. When I was growing up in college, like, I mean, that wasn't even a thought process.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I was just going to ask you. So you walked on to Michigan State to play
Yeah.
football,
yeah.
and you realized you needed to get any type of edge out there,
Yep.
and you turned to sleeping.
Yeah.
College is tough to
Tough.
sleep.
Yeah. Not the priority. That's
Yeah.
for sure. But it was, I think, I mean, I wasn't a crazy person, but I think, you know, me and my roommate were both really dedicated, and we kind of got our confidence from the weight room and being stronger and putting the work outside of the playing field. So, you know, we were reading Muscle and Fitness and getting our hands on any studies that were out there, which weren't that many about sleep at the time, but we were intentional in the fact of like, we would never go out before a big workout. We would never, you know, drink before any morning practice or film or anything like that. Like we knew the impact, like we weren't really exactly sure, but we knew there was a big impact. And so the fact that we were even conscious of that, I think was above the norm in college.
Absolutely. And so you walked on, and then you got your chance to start and had a pretty successful career at Michigan State.
Yeah. I mean, it was a grind, you know, like the first 3 years I got injured, and it was just, I thought it would never happen. I thought I was going to have to give up, but finally got healthy and like lived my dream. My dad went to Michigan State. I always wanted to play there as a kid. Thought there was no possibility. It wasn't even in my realm of possibilities as a senior in high school, and got the opportunity. And it was literally a dream come true, like a storybook.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
And then got the shot in the big leagues.
Yeah, not long. You know, by that time I was pretty banged up, and actually failed a drug test, which is a wild. That's how it all ended. I took, you remember Oxy Elite Pro?
Yeah.
Remember that stuff? Yeah. So we had a month off before camp. I woke up, was super tired, and we had to drive to my buddy's lake house, and there was some on my counter. I knew there was probably something in it. Took it to wake up. Halfway there, NFL calls, drug test.
Right on the spot.
They meet me there. You know, further down the season, all the results comes out. It takes a long time, and that was it, man. Got suspended for 4 games, which now they treat it like back then. Any substance was treated like a performance enhancer. So 4-game suspension. Now it would have been like a warning, because it was like a over-the-counter stimulant. But the rules were different back then. And but I had just met my wife, and like I said, I was pretty banged up, overachieved, I would say, for my ability level, and it just felt like it was time for the next chapter. I don't think I could have played more than a year or two, just with my knee and my quad, and you know, it's just banged up.
And which team was that with?
The Rams. We were in St. Louis though, not the
LA,
not the new
Rams.
Fancy Rams, like the old school blue collar Rams.
Yeah, the Kurt Warner Rams.
Yeah. Jeff Fisher was my coach. He was an awesome guy, but it was definitely not the glitz and glamour they have out at SoFi Field or whatever now.
Right. And so working with professional athletes, their schedules are all over the place.
Tough.
So when you have a professional athlete that comes to you or you go to them, what's the first thing you kind of recommend or want to see with them to help them out with their sleep?
Honestly, awareness goes the longest way. A lot of times it's not even in their thought process, especially out of the season. I think in season it kind of naturally falls into place, but man, you'd be surprised how many guys that are performing at a super high level that coming home from practice, playing video games till 2 a.m, waking up at 6, going to film, and then just repeating that. So I think like connecting sleep to what they're trying to do. Like you want to be an all-pro, you know, you want to be an All-American, whatever it is, you want to, you know, win a gold medal, really making them understand how much sleep is going to impact their performance. Like once you get that buy-in and the awareness, it usually goes the other direction where they're very motivated, because they don't think that sleep is going to immediately impact the performance. But when you show them all the science and data, it's like, there's nothing they want to do more.
Yeah.
It's also enjoyable. Like it's the one thing, it's like, you know, working out is hard. Eating healthy sucks, but who doesn't like to sleep?
Exactly.
So if you're going to pick your battles, like that's where you should start.
Yeah. I personally always feel like if I can get in a good headspace and have the momentum with sleeping and really focus on it, I do feel so much better in the morning after a night where I've read a book, haven't looked at screens, and then I wake up feeling way more refreshed. Don't know if that's a placebo effect or me looking at my Whoop.
What prevents you from doing that consistently?
That's a good question. Yeah. Sometimes I just think that I do so much during the day and do all this work, and I
Mhm.
finally just kind of want to unwind and not really think. And I think sometimes I just turn to like Netflix or just to watch a show and just
Yeah.
lay there until I fall asleep.
Because you enjoy that time of like not having to do anything.
Yeah,
So that's a big movement right now.
right.
Is like delayed bedtimes because people are so busy that that's the only time they have them themselves.
Exactly.
Which I understand that. I mean, it's hard. Like, so for me, for example, like, I talk about sleep all the time, but I actually have a TV in my bedroom,
Right.
which, is a no-no. But like me and my wife, like one thing that's like a non-negotiable, we would love watching like one TV show in bed. And that's like a very special time.
Mhm.
Unpack, like you said, it's like time where everything kind of shuts off. So I think you do have to, you have to be a human being, and your
Mhm.
relationships and social connections are the most important thing for health and longevity, far more than sleep, nutrition, exercise. Like if you don't have people you care about and deep relationships, statistically, your longevity, the
Exactly.
chance, the lifespan you have is going to drop. So I think you have to keep in mind, like you can't be a robot.
Right.
So when something, is really important to you, I think you have to figure out how to keep that in there and adjust things and not, delete all the things that you care about.
Yeah, that's a great point. Because when you go to the extreme, it's so much easier to fall off and
Right.
then be hesitant to do that in the future. Yeah, when I'm, laying in bed or on the couch at night watching TV, I do think it just lets my mind unravel and just relax, as opposed to I'm like, I know if I read, I'm gonna fall asleep better, probably have deeper sleep. But I also feel like when I'm reading, I'm still like thinking of things
Yeah.
throughout the day. Um,
It's I think Whoop is doing some really cool stuff with like I think people think of sleep and awake as like a binary thing. Like you're awake or you're asleep. But your stress levels throughout the day have a massive impact on how well you sleep. So it's not like there's these secret protocols where you can just like shut things off. Like
mhm.
even if you feel like your mind is shutting off, if you're really stressed throughout the day, and now they have that
Right, the
monitor.
stress monitor.
If you're really stressed throughout the day, it's going to impact your sleep. And the more and more data we're getting, the more we're realizing like you have to have some stress management skills throughout the day because it's nearly impossible just to turn things off. And
Right.
I think that'll be a big shift is almost, looking at your day as 24 hours and not awake and asleep.
Right. For those listening at home that aren't familiar with like a Whoop, explain to them how something like Whoop works and helps you with the data.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing with Whoop, I mean, Whoop is just, a device that measures a few biometrics, resting heart rate, heart rate variability. And heart rate variability is just basically how regular your heart rate is or heartbeat is. And the more relaxed your nervous system is, the more irregular those spaces are in between the beats, right?
Mhm.
We want that, which seems counterintuitive, but it's a really great snapshot into how much you're able to recover, how primed your body is to perform, and how relaxed you're able to keep your mind in your physiological state. So, like putting a Whoop on in general, people immediately usually have an increase in the amount they sleep, and it's great for that, and it's great for tracking your bedtime and your wake time and long-term trends. I think the long-term, the week, the monthly reports, the yearly reports are amazing. But I would say the negative is like you shouldn't wake up and look at a score on your phone and let that dictate how you feel.
Yeah,
Right. Like, and people do that. Like you
I do
wake up
that.
and it's 17, but you could
Yeah.
feel great.
Yeah. But
Right.
then you look at it and you're like, oh, never mind. I don't feel great.
Right. And then you start convincing yourself you don't feel great and
Right.
vice versa. That you could be a 98, you could feel bad. So even with a lot of athletes we work with, we actually now Whoop has a feature where you can turn off or you can't see the day-to-day recovery score because the consistency in your bedtime and wake time and the long-term trends are so much more powerful. And you really don't want that to dictate how you feel, especially like if you have a competition, a big meeting, a job interview. The last thing you need is something telling you not to feel good, right? So like
Mhm.
there's not a big benefit in the day-to-day, but I think when you look back, it's really powerful to see what different behaviors positively impact, the recovery scores.
Yeah. Cause even the other day, I had a super stressful day and I was getting to bed late. I had to wake up at like 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
I just took off my Whoop. I was like, I don't even want to
Yeah.
know what my score is going to be in the morning because I know it's going to affect me even greater. But it is interesting to look at those statistics. We have a group in our gym, and we're always like, oh, look what so and so got, or what did
Yeah.
this person do last night. You see their
Yeah.
HRV down super low. What's your average HRV?
Mine's in the 60s.
Okay.
HRV is pretty like personalized. Your resting heart rate the better shape you get in, the lower it gets, and it's pretty normalized. Everybody, has basically the same range. But HRV is like a pretty individualized number.
Right.
Like my wife's, for example, is 185. Michael Phelps is around 230.
That's insane.
Yeah. So the higher, cardiovascular output you have, usually the higher HRV. But I'm around 60, 65, bachelor party, I'm around 15 usually. But
you're in the red.
I had a couple 1% days.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. I mean, alcohol, for example, like it impacts it immensely. It's wild. I think the first month people start wearing Whoop, their alcohol consumption drops like 77% or something like that, because it will tank.
Yeah,
sleep.
That's the main thing where people start with the Whoop. They can see it's like a red number, and even if you have 1 or 2 drinks.
Yeah. I mean, even 2 drinks, like they've done studies, and they've done studies where 2 drinks will drop your REM sleep like 40%. Just 2 drinks. So when you look at that, I think the biggest thing is being intentional with alcohol, and little changes can make a big difference. Like I always tell people, let's say you're gonna have 2 glasses of wine, right? If you have that right before bed or after dinner, that could drop your REM sleep 40, 30%. But if you have those glasses of wine while you're making dinner, let's say with your wife, you're going to give your body a little more time to process that alcohol and probably have, much less of an impact. Whereas if you're not thinking about it, you have it, after dinner, like you're having the same amount, probably enjoy it to the same level, just a minor tweak that, over the course of a year can make a huge difference.
So explain to everybody what REM sleep is and how important it is.
Yeah. So you kind of have 2 different types of sleep. You have your REM sleep and your non-REM sleep. So your REM sleep is where the majority of our dreams are. That really accounts for our mental stability, our mood consistency, and basically like the mental aspect of sleep. And then you have your non-REM sleep, which is like the physical regeneration sleep. So muscles, tissue, recovering from a workout. And that's where the deep sleep, like slow wave sleep, lies, that you'll see in like a Whoop, for example. And that's the most restorative form of sleep for your body, your physical body. It's also the type of sleep that flushes out. You have this fluid in your brain, the cerebral spinal fluid, and it flushes all like the cellular toxin byproducts like beta amyloids, tau proteins that are produced. And that's what causes Alzheimer's, dementia. So you can see like both very important, right? You have your mental stability on one half, and taking care of your brain. You have your physical regeneration. So like it's more about, we think about REM sleep and non-REM as like a band, where a band is great because they have good proportions of different instruments. So like REM sleep is like the drums, and non-REM and your deep sleep is like the guitar. And you can't make up for lack of drums with more guitar, and vice versa, right? Like you need that good proportion. So I think sometimes people get fixated on REM sleep and deep sleep and all these different stages, but it's more about, do you have the right proportions, and is your body kind of flowing through these stages throughout the night, and are those unfolding like they're supposed to?
It's a fantastic analogy. Andrew, how much sleep do you get back there?
I'm usually in bed by 10:30, 11, up by 6.
It's pretty good. Like the
7
pretty,
hours?
Yeah, I mean, so 7 is like the generally accepted, in the medical world, minimum amount of sleep.
Yeah.
Every single night. But as soon as you say 7, people are like, I'm going to shoot for 7. They kind of miss the word minimum. Like that's the absolute minimum.
Yeah.
Right. So like that's not the goal. The goal, most people need around, there's some new studies that came out this year. Anywhere from like 7.5 to 9 hours is really where the optimal amount lies.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah. This past weekend was daylight savings, and I woke up on Sunday at like 7 in the morning. On a weekend, I never do that.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I feel fantastic.
You're gonna say you felt great, probably.
Is this how I could feel if I would just go to bed an hour earlier?
The answer is yes.
Yeah, dang it.
What's crazy is when you spring forward, that Monday there's a 25% increase in cardiovascular events in all the hospitals, just from that 1 hour less of sleep. And there's a 50% increase in car accidents in major cities that Monday morning.
Shoo. Man, we should use those stats to not do daylight savings.
They're working on it. They're trying to pass a bill.
Oh, really?
Because it doesn't make sense now. Like it was all about farming and crops and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But you might as well just keep it consistent, because you have some states that don't do it, some states that do it. But
Yeah.
a lot of things with sleep, it's like subconscious. It's like reaction time, your ability to read someone's facial expressions, your emotions, like stuff that's happening without you realizing it. It's not like, oh, I feel tired. It's like legitimate, cognitive function. Like it's not just the feeling of being sleepy.
That's so
I'm
impressive.
gonna try and go to bed at 9:30 now. That's gonna be my new. That just feels so early. 9:30.
Well, but don't think about it, go to bed. Like, just think about, like, the best thing you can do is create a continuum from your living space to your bedroom. So like starting at 6:30, for example, gradually kind of turn the lights down, maybe you have a warm tea, something like that. Like, do things to gradually taper off. Don't think of like, I'm firing on all cylinders in my living room, lights are on, loud, TV's
Yeah.
blaring, and then boom, hit my bedroom and try to fall asleep right away. You got to make it like a nice gradual taper, and then usually fall asleep a lot faster. And you're looking forward to going to bed because you're actually getting sleepy.
Kind of sounds nice.
Yeah.
What time do you go to bed, Shawn?
It varies.
You wake up at 3 in the morning. You're like Mark Wahlberg, so I'm sure you're better.
His is wild.
Yeah,
He goes to bed at
that's-
like 7.
Yeah. What are you doing, dude?
I'm like,
Your life is.
you're
Like,
just like-
there's no way that's fun.
yeah, you're living like the day before.
Yeah.
Like, you're not even in the same day as everybody else.
Yeah. So that's a perfect segue, though. What would be, let's do Final Four segment. Final Four tips, the best tips you have to get a good night's sleep.
Okay. Number 1 is, on a pedestal by itself, which is consistent bedtime and wake time.
Okay.
Like staying within 30 minutes, 7 days a week. That's the hard part.
All right.
Weekend warriors. Staying within 30 minutes of your normal bedtime and wake time, 7 days of the week, your life will change. Your sleep will get exponentially better.
Because I've always heard that too, that it's more about consistency than the actual hours. But I think it also
Definitely.
goes back to kind of like the band deal, where it's like you kind of need both to be in place.
Yeah. So along with that, so the problem is like, as the night goes on,
Mhm.
you get into more and more REM cycles. So you have the first half of the night, you have more of that deep sleep. Second half, you have more REM cycles. But what happens is, because your body is so regular, and that's why the consistency is so important, if you stay up late, you skip more of that non-REM deep sleep and get right into the REM cycles. But if you wake up early, your body does the opposite, where you don't get the REM cycles in the second half of the night, but you get more of that physical regeneration, non-REM sleep. So you can't cheat the system. It's not like you start off at stage 1 and flow through this sleep cycle progression. It's like whatever you're used to, you jump right into those cycles faster. And so, like I said, you can't have more guitar or more drums. Like, you have to have both. And that's why there's no way to cheat the consistency.
Okay.
Number 2 would be, like I said, create a gradient from your living space to your bedroom as far as lights and just the psychological process of winding down throughout the night. Don't try to walk into your bedroom and mentally be turned on from the entire day and not start shutting down and then expect to fall asleep in 10 minutes, right? So kind of start that process early. I would say number 3 would be control the temperature, right? Your body has to cool down in order to fall asleep, especially get into deep sleep. So like, you have to be able to drop your core body temperature. So a hot shower, hot tub, sauna is a great way to do that. And then just having the temperature in the room cool enough that your body's able to do that.
Yeah.
Wait, a hot shower is good to cool your body
Yeah.
down?
So yeah, it's kind of like, I compare it to like working out. It's not even close to the same physiological thing, but when you work out, your body's like, oh, I need to get stronger. I can't lift this. Let's build up muscle and let's take the stimulus and get used to it and get stronger so I can do it. Body does the same thing with heat. It's like, I'm super hot. So it overcompensates and actually cools you down faster because you're overheated.
Oh.
And then you're able to actually drop your core body temperature more quickly in those
Nice.
early stages of sleep. Yeah. So usually you can fall asleep faster and you get into that deep sleep much quicker.
Okay.
And then my fourth tip would be just awareness of substances like alcohol, caffeine, especially caffeine, nicotine. A lot of those things can affect sleep. But caffeine probably just buries people the most.
Right.
Like, it stays in your system a long time. The half-life is 5 to 6 hours.
Ooh.
So like, just to like play out the average American's day, let's say someone has 3 cups of coffee. So like 100 milligrams of caffeine. That's like a small coffee, super
That's small.
normal amount of coffee. 300 milligrams. Let's say they have one at 8, 11, and 1,
Mhm.
right? So your body doesn't metabolize it as fast as um, it rises in your system, or you can absorb it. So if you have one at 8, 11, and 1, let's say, you'll have like 270 milligrams in your system like at 2 p.m., which isn't that crazy. But at 11 p.m., you'll still have about 85 milligrams ish, which a Red Bull has 80 milligrams. So that's only 300 milligrams of caffeine, 3 cups of coffee. But the difference of just having some in the afternoon, your body just doesn't have time to get it out of its system, and then you're going to have a tough time going to bed.
I feel like I must have caffeine in my system at all times because I
Yeah.
drink a lot of caffeine. I'll have 1 coffee a day, which is an iced Americano, and I'll have 3 or 4 shots of espresso. That's probably over 200 milligrams.
Yeah, that's like 240, 250.
Yeah, I'll have one of
But
those
what
a
time
day.
do you have that?
Once.
In the morning?
It depends. It's probably mid-morning. And then I'll have a pre-workout,
Oh,
which is 200 milligrams.
Yep.
Usually it's basically whatever a company sends me something.
Yeah.
So it's like Alani, Celsius, and
Yeah.
I'll have a ton of those in my fridge. I'll pop 200 milligrams. I might do 2 of those a day.
What time are you doing that at?
Oh man.
Morning, and then also 5 o'clock at
Mhm.
night.
I would be curious to see if you just did 1 in the morning.
Right.
And it's going to be a little rough.
Yeah.
Like, just to see how you feel. I bet you sleep like a rock.
Way better. Yeah.
Because you're not used to it. I feel like also caffeine, people don't realize, like, if you ever go off of caffeine for a little bit and then take it, it feels great.
Great. I've done that.
Yeah. So I almost compare it to like a play action pass in football, where it's like, if you run it every play, it's not going to work. But if you wait and you hold off a couple days and then take it,
Yeah.
like when you need it, it's a great tool.
Yeah.
But when you just get used to it, you know how it is. Like, if you actually think about it, like when you're drinking that much, is it doing a lot? Like, probably not. It's more of a mental thing.
Yeah. It's habit. I also just like grabbing a coffee depending on the season. Right now it's fall. I still do iced and cold coffee all the time, but
I'm an
there's
iced
something
guy.
about just like sipping on a
Definitely.
coffee.
Even if you did, like, think about if you did 2 decaf shots of espresso and then 2 regular, like those, it's not like you don't have to make these like massive overhauls, but like that over 300 days a year, that's going to have a pretty good impact on your sleep.
Yeah, I feel like there's no way you would notice a difference between if you
No.
normally get 4 shots of espresso, do half decaf. I doubt you would notice a difference.
No way.
Yeah, it's weaning me off.
You just need to like, someone needs to like sneak in, tell the barista not to tell you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I guarantee you'd have no idea.
That's wild. Yeah, because I always wonder why people get decaf just for the taste.
Yeah.
Does it
Like-
taste the same?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if I've ever had decaf coffee in my life.
I'll get a decaf espresso like after dinner sometimes, and I'm always like, I know that this is just regular. They're definitely just saying they have decaf. That's the time I'm like, I don't know. I don't trust this at all.
Yeah.
But caffeine and alcohol is wild. So when you combine the two, the half-life of caffeine goes to about 12 hours.
Really?
So Red Bull vodka. But I'm always like, do people drinking a Red Bull vodka really care? Like, that's the goal.
No,
That's the outcome they want.
Yeah,
Like, they're not thinking. But espresso martinis are very trendy, and people don't realize you really want to jack up your sleep, an espresso martini is the way to do it.
That's got to be the trendiest drink in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh yeah.
Espresso martinis. Every female in town
Oh yeah.
knows a list of the top 10 bars, and they're ranking
Yep.
their favorites, and you see those all over the place. I got on a kick last year when I was drinking, loved them. But then Red Bull and vodkas, right? That's a wild drink. And
Yeah.
I haven't had those in years. And I went on a bachelor party last year. My buddy Dusty McNabb, he just comes to 3 of us. He's like, "Here we go." I'm like, "Is that a RBV?" Like, haven't had that since college.
Oh man.
Had one of those, and then we just drank those the entire night.
Yeah, you were probably just shaking the next morning.
One of the worst hangovers I've ever had.
Yeah. I think a lot of hangovers, honestly, like most hangovers are lack of sleep and not actually the hangover.
Yeah, dehydration though too.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, if you have like 6 drinks, you're essentially getting almost no REM sleep. So like it's kind of a wash, So like when people are like, "Oh, I'm so hungover," it's like, no, you're probably just like your brain pretty much hasn't slept at all, and you're trying to get rid of all this stuff and dehydrated, and you have 1,200 milligrams of Red Bull in you, and
God. So
Bachelor parties
wild.
bring the worst out,
The
That could be a
worst.
little niche, like some type of bachelor party sleep situation.
How long does it take to recover from that? You go on a bachelor party, it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
So that's a good question. So the problem with things like that is like what people do to overcome lack of sleep. And the best thing you can do when you don't have a good night's sleep is nothing. Like you don't want to try to take a nap. You don't want to have extra caffeine. You just want to power through it because you really mess yourself up when you start doing things like nap or overconsume caffeine because that's going to cascade into the next day and the next day. When you start impacting your sleep the next night, that's going to be a multiple day effect. So what you want to do is just kind of, we always call it stick your face in the fan in football. Like this is going to hurt. Just stick your face in the fan, power through it and do nothing because you'll get right back on track. Whereas if you drink extra caffeine, take a nap, you can't fall asleep that night. Now your next night is messed up and you're pushing your whole, circadian rhythm balance out of whack. And you might have 2 or 3 days where you can't get back in a rhythm. So
That
it
makes
sucks.
a lot of sense.
It sucks.
Yeah.
But it's the best way to do it.
Because I even tell myself that too. I obviously will drink caffeine, but when it comes to nap, I'm like, I probably should just wait and fall asleep tonight.
Yeah. And naps can be good for people who are good nappers. But if it affects that night's sleep, it's not worth it. Like, there's some positive benefits, but not when it affects your major chunk of sleep.
So is there truth to naps being the best at 15 to 20 minutes in duration?
There's different stuff out there and there's some different data, but I tend to have people shy away from it in general because not many people have enough consistent time to where they even know if they're going to be able to fall asleep that night. So if there's any question you're not going to be able to sleep, I usually shy away. But your first REM cycle usually takes 90 minutes. So if you want like truly restorative sleep, like a restorative nap, you need probably 90 minutes. But yeah, there's some stuff that like a 20-minute nap can, boost you a little bit cognitively. But I would probably venture to say it's psychological for the most part.
Are you a nap guy, Andrew?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you?
Like on a weekend. Yeah. I'll hit like a Saturday or like a Sunday nap while football's on.
Yeah. On the couch.
I mean,
Do you drink caffeine? Like, do you drink a lot of caffeine in the week?
I would say my window is I have 2 cups of coffee probably from like 8 a.m. to 9:30 and then I'm done.
Oh, so that's solid. Then
Yeah.
did you do that on the weekend too?
Yeah, probably till like noon on the weekend.
Yeah. Caffeine is really good at making you not feel tired more than actually giving you energy.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, wait, what do you think about melatonin?
yeah, that's a good question. So melatonin, I mean, it's kind of wild in the United States. So melatonin is in almost every country in Europe a controlled substance. So you have to have a prescription to get melatonin. Like you can't travel
Whoa.
with it for the most part. And yeah, and the other thing is they did a couple studies on US based melatonin and the dosages when they analyzed it were anywhere from negative 85% of what was listed to 450% what was listed. So, our supplement regulation is almost nothing. And so it's not something to like just casually, throw in there. It's a hormone. It affects things beyond sleep. And it's a system and the production process is a cycle that you want your body to naturally do. Right? Anytime we're adding in hormones, it's usually not the best approach and it's usually not a good long-term solution. So like a lot of clinical specialists, like they'll put people on melatonin, but it's only short-term to combat an issue going on and they eventually taper them off. And the other thing I don't love about just sleep supplements in general is like everyone just wants a fix. And it's not about like, is this going to fix it? It's just the fact that you're relying on this thing to fix all these issues when really like the issue is stress management, your routine, like all the boring stuff nobody wants to talk about. And there's no way to cheat that system. And you really have to do the hard stuff and the boring stuff and work on that. But everybody just wants a gummy or a pill or a drink. And that can work. There's I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but add that in after you've addressed all this other stuff. Like waking up and going to bed at the same time. Nobody thinks about that first when that should be no doubt the first thing you even take a look at. Like no wonder you're not sleeping well if you're sleeping until 1 p.m. on the weekend and waking up at 5 a.m. in the week. Like you're going to have a disastrous time and no drink is going to help that. So I just think it's like the people want the easy way out and I have no problem with it once these other things have been explored. But usually, after you implement half this stuff, like people are sleeping great.
Right.
So
Yeah, and I
tough.
feel like that's just our society in general, just looking
Yeah.
for the easy way out and looking for fat loss medication or
Yeah.
a diet pill where they don't just actually try and
Yeah.
do
And I get it. I mean, it's hard. Like, who wouldn't want that?
exactly.
But it's just not something to just throw in there and not think about and take lightly. I think if you have some really serious issues, like talk to a doc and work on the behaviors. And the behaviors also like are going to have such a bigger impact. Like if you want to really sleep well, like dial in the light. Sleep masks are awesome. I'm a big mouth taper. Like that's our biggest product. But all these things you can do that are holistic, they're just gonna aid your body into doing what it naturally does, as opposed to adding extra stuff that's not naturally produced.
Right. And I want to get into the mouth tape in a minute here, but you mentioned gummies. So do you have any experience or studies showing that THC is effective,
Yeah,
or you don't
I
get
mean
the
THC is trendy, but so THC will definitely help you fall asleep faster, but it just tends to be a lighter non-REM sleep. It kind of does a similar thing as alcohol, where it affects the architecture of sleep and doesn't allow you to get into those REM cycles as easily. And a lot of people who use THC, they'll tell you like, I don't dream when I smoke, or I don't dream when I use THC, and that's because they're not in as much REM sleep, and that's when we get majority of our dreams. So, and then a lot of times people who are chronic users and they come off of it, they have a really tough time because their dreams are so intense because they've kind of deprived their brain of that REM sleep for a long time. So it can help, it can help some people, and it can help you fall asleep faster. Same with alcohol, helps you fall asleep faster, but it's not good for the architecture of your sleep. And also, just like when they look at long-term brain scans and chronic THC use, it's not good. Like and people don't like to hear that.
they don't.
But it's not good. And there's tons of studies on that. And there's really no debating that the chronic use is going to have some bad long-term outcomes.
Right. Because anytime I've, had THC before bed, I feel like I wake up groggy. I almost feel
Definitely.
like I have like a little bit of a hangover because
Yeah.
I know my sleep wasn't as good.
Yeah, definitely. And most people are out, they fall asleep fast, and it stays in your system a good amount of time, right? It's not processed very quickly. So it affects things for a substantial length.
Now back to the mouth taping. Is this becoming a trendy thing? 'Cause I've heard about this a couple times now in the past month.
It is. It's very trendy, and it was life-changing for me. And so there's a book that came out by James Nestor called Breathe, and Breath, Breathe. I'm thinking in my head. So yeah, the book was amazing, and that kind of like started me down this path. And the thing that's not debatable is just how impactful nasal breathing can be. We're meant to breathe through our nose at a time of rest. So breathe through our nose, eat through our mouth. That's kind of the gist. And in this day and age, a lot of people are breathing through their mouth when they sleep, and not efficient breathers. And so that's kind of what it forces you to do. It forces you to breathe through your nose. Your breath is a direct link to your nervous system. So it almost, it's like bumpers in a bowling alley. It makes you regulate your nervous system and calm down before you go to bed. So that's one benefit. And the other thing, just creating that seal. Our tongue has to create a seal from the top of our mouth in order to breathe efficiently through our nose. So when that doesn't happen, people start snoring, they have sleep apnea, they stop breathing, they have disturbances throughout the night, and the mouth tape just ensures that that's not happening.
Well, I want to try that. I'm just afraid that
Okay.
when I wake up, I'm not going to wake up because I
Oh,
can't
no.
breathe through.
But
But think about this, though.
Scary.
It's think about this. If you have your mouth shut and someone
Yeah.
plugged your nose,
Yeah.
you're instantly going to wake up.
Right.
Right. Like it seems weird, but like your body responds almost immediately. But I started doing it 2 years ago. Massive difference in my sleep. I only would wake up like one time. I just feel like I was like sleeping so deep when I would do it. So, we started Dream Recovery. We sold a bunch of mouth tape. And I'm like, I want to do a sleep study, a clinical sleep study with the tape and without the tape. So I did both. Without the tape, I had 86 breathing disturbances throughout the night. So I stopped breathing 86 times. Diagnosed with mild sleep apnea. They recommended a CPAP, the whole thing. Had no idea. I slept well my whole life, 8 hours of sleep. I'm speaking about sleep, talk to people about it all the time. I did the sleep study with the mouth tape, and I had 8 the entire night, which is far less than the average. No clinical issues. Everything was perfect. Way more REM sleep, way more deep sleep. So we're seeing this like time and time again. Like we have my friend Rebecca Rouse. She's like a, top 10 in the nation Olympic weightlifter. And she is the most dialed in human being. Like everything is dedicated to her training, doesn't drink, sleeps, as much as she can, super consistent, eats perfect. She started mouth taping and her Whoop scores were in the 90% the first 7 days.
Really?
Her slow wave deep sleep increased like 25%. Like I was blown away because usually when you have somebody that's doing everything perfect, it doesn't really make a difference. And yeah, so some people just can't create that seal, and it could be jaw structure, their teeth, whatever it may be. The actual, it could be psychological and just the way that their body has breathed over the years. But it's crazy some of the stories we get and how much difference people feel.
I want to try that out for sure.
Yeah.
Can I just use duct tape or what?
Well, that's the thing is like, so Amazon actually banned all mouth tape sales because they were using these like sketchy adhesives. Most were from China, and people were like breaking out. So they stopped all sales. So ours is like all organic. We use bamboo silk. We have like medical grade adhesive we ship from the United States. Like it's the best you can get because it's on your skin for 8 hours. So you think about how particular people are with lotion. Right. Then you slap some random tape on your face for 8 hours. It's like, you should probably like think about what it is.
Now, what about beds? How much of effect does an actual bed have? Do you want to go out and invest and put a ton of money into a really nice bed, or does it even matter?
Yeah, I mean, I think a bed is like one of the best investments you can make because it's more of a comfort thing. Like hasn't been too much to show like this certain, brand or mattress. The one thing I'll say though that's really impactful is some type of memory foam that you can't feel like your partner get up.
Yeah,
that can be life changing because a lot of people have a hard time falling back asleep. They wake up in the middle of the night, they start thinking about stuff, and then they can't fall back asleep. So we always talk about like give your brain the least amount of opportunities to take over. So if you're waking up on your own 3 times a night, but then your spouse is waking up 3 times, now you're waking up 6 times throughout the night. And there's a much higher probability that, you start thinking about something and you can't fall back asleep. So don't roll the dice more than you have to, basically. So I think that, I think that's the biggest, recommendation for a mattress I would make. But I my mattress is insane. I work with a company called Bright. It's like BYRTE. It's like an AI mattress. There's 45 air cylinders underneath on each side. So like when you roll, it disperses all the force. Like you don't have any pressure points.
Right.
And then at night you can put on like thunder or meditation, and it uses those chambers and creates like waves that match the meditation. Whoa. To help you fall asleep. It's insane. And then you can also set it so like if I need to get up at 6 and my wife is going to get up at 7, let's say, at 5:45, it will gradually start those waves just on my side and then get bigger and bigger. And I'll wake up and she won't even know. She doesn't even hear an alarm. There's no alarm clock, but you wake up like this really peaceful, relaxed state. It's pretty sick. They're very expensive.
I was gonna say it's gotta be like 10,000 at least.
It's right around there.
Yeah.
But it's a really cool company. They're at like the Four Seasons and like the Park Hyatt and some high end hotels.
Nice. Need to reach out to those guys.
Yeah.
I want to see studies on couples that sleep together in the same bed and then they have their separate bedrooms.
There's a lot. There's a lot of couples that are making those arrangements.
Yeah, I don't hate on that. I think it's kind of smart.
Well, when you look at how important sleep is, it's hard. It's a hard topic because like when you look at how important sleep is, you can easily justify it. But then there is the part, like I said, like relationships are the most important thing. So if it's strictly sleep and there's something going on, I get it. But I'm always like, okay, why can't you sleep in the same bed? If it's snoring, mouth tape almost instantly reduces snoring.
Yeah.
But also, snoring is not something to be ignored. Like if someone's snoring, that is a symptom. That is a dysfunction of your breathing pattern. Like don't just be like, oh, I snore really bad. No big deal. Like you need to get that checked out. Yeah. But when people can't sleep in the same bed, I always wonder like why it is. So I tend to not recommend it because, I think if you can, sleeping in the same bed is a good thing. And then address those issues. Don't just that seems like a quick fix most of the time. But if you have, snoring or someone's waking up a lot or they can't sleep, there's a lot of things you can do before that. I think that's kind of a last ditch effort.
Right.
Like the Buttery Bros, the CrossFit guys.
Maybe.
But they like produce all the CrossFit movies like on Netflix and stuff like that. But they go to all these events and he started mouth taping and I met his wife and she was like, you saved our marriage. Like he snores so bad, and now like it changed everything. So
Really?
I think there's a lot of things you can do.
Yeah. I need to start figuring out what to do with my dog Walter, because at first he was not allowed on the bed, and then I caved in and he started
Same.
hopping on the bed, and then he
Same,
sleeps on the
dude.
bed and he just moves around so much during the night, and he's 80 pounds.
Yeah.
Golden Retriever has so much fur, and I'm like, you can tell he's getting hot and uncomfortable. He just hops up, hops down, hops up, hops down. But that is definitely affecting my sleep.
So, do you have a memory foam bed?
Yeah.
That's tough because my dog sleeps in my bed too.
Yeah.
There's no way I could not have her sleep in my bed.
I
It's
know.
non-negotiable.
Yeah.
I'm like the biggest softie. So yeah, that's hard.
What do you recommend to those who get a poor night sleep and they have a workout that day? Are you just like, yeah, just power through it? Or are you one of those people that are like, maybe you should take the day off if your sleep wasn't that good?
I think it depends on the situation. Like a one-off, if it was like something really bad, I'd probably tell them to take the day off. But I think the worst thing people can do when they have like a weight loss goal, I feel like most people have a weight loss goal, body count goal, and the first thing they want to do is be like, I'm going to wake up earlier and work out in the morning.
Right.
And a lot of people hate working out in the morning. But if it's cutting into your sleep, like if you go from 7 hours to 6 hours, you're now going to have a tougher time making nutritional choices. You're not going to be as motivated. You're not going to be as motivated to work out. You're actually like, you crave alcohol slightly more when you're underslept. Like all these things, you want fats and sodiums, and you kind of, create this friction for your goals. So I think if you're able to sleep the optimal amount and work out at different times or whatever's convenient, but making sure like that is always the foundation of your health, that weight loss journey is going to be so much easier. You got to like grease the skids a little bit. I think that's what like sleep does, is it really sets you up for sustained success, as opposed to like when you implement these really hard behaviors, like waking up super early and doing cardio, whatever people are doing, like you can only fight your physiology for so long. And I think that's when people kind of fall apart.
Right. And I feel like obviously the better sleep you get, the more productive you have.
Definitely.
And you don't have to work as much if you're more productive in those hours.
Yeah, they've done like even studies with different workforces, and people who work 55 hours compared to 40 hours when they're sleeping better. And they're working 15 more hours, but the total body of work in the 40 hours is greater because they're so much more efficient, and they're able to function at a high cognitive level. So even though it seems like you're working more, doesn't mean you're working better.
Right.
It's also crazy, like with the similar study, they did a study on CEOs and the safety and trust the employees felt. And there was a direct correlation of direct correlation between the number of hours the CEO got and the safety the employees felt.
Really?
Which is wild.
That's crazy.
But when you think about that REM sleep affecting, your emotional regulation and how that impacts an organization at the CEO, it makes sense that if you're, consistently sleeping the right amount, you're going to emit this powerful, consistent, like compass like feeling to the organization.
That's impressive. That's wild.
Yeah.
Now, what about planes? Sleeping on planes? What tips and tricks you have for that?
Yeah, I mean that's tough.
That's a tough one.
I mean, sleep masks are a game changer on a plane. I mean,
you said you use one every night, a sleep mask?
Yeah, every night. We make sleep masks like our Dream Recovery does, and I wasn't a sleep mask guy for a while. They're kind of positioned as this like, luxury beauty product.
Yeah.
But man, when you start using them, like it's more about you committing to going to bed. Nowadays people are on their phone, Snapchat, Instagram, whatever it may be. There's never a moment where you're like, okay, it's time to shut down. And your body creates this like subconscious attachment to that process. And you'd be amazed at how fast you fall asleep once you get used to it. Now, a sleep mask, it is a little tough to get used to because it's weird. It's on your face. Like you're not used to it. It's a little uncomfortable the first couple of days, but give it a week. Make sure you get a really comfortable one, and you'd be shocked at like how much faster you fall asleep. And I think a lot of people don't try it because it is weird the first couple of nights, and it just seems like something that's like high maintenance. Like, oh geez, like you need a sleep mask. But some of the athletes you work with, I mean, they see crazy changes because, like I said, they are on their phone and they just sit there till you're like get tired and pass out basically. But when you're on your phone, like stimulating your brain with these bright lights and stuff, you're not going to get tired. It's going to take a long time. When they have that commitment and they create a habit, then it's like lights out.
Yeah. So get into the phone in the blue light. Is there any benefit to having those blue light glasses?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
does
it can
actually
definitely
work.
ramp up like your melatonin production.
Mhm.
And the other thing with blue light, it's not just like, is it my screen on or off, or like, is the TV on or off? It's like, how much? So even, an hour has a much less significant impact than 2 hours. So I think it's those little changes. So, if you go from an hour with the TV on, then you throw the glasses on for an hour, like that can really help you calm down, and that can
Mhm.
produce more melatonin and help you ease into bed. But the blue light glasses are obviously trendy, but I will say, like, my favorite ones are like the big, like, massive with the sides. It looks like you just had eye surgery because you
Yeah,
can't like see anything. But
and
you'd be shocked. Like, throw those things on. They're like $10 on Amazon. Throw them on and see how sleepy you get within like 15 minutes. It's very relaxing to not have any blue light, and it's surprising to people.
do you think that there's gonna be an issue with our kids now and the younger generation where they are attached to their phones at all hours of the day from sun up to sundown with the sleep levels and sleep quality?
I think we're at the pinnacle of sleep issues right now. Like,
Mm,
I think this will be the peak,
mhm.
because yes, there's more screens than ever before, more stimulation, but there's also never been the attention on sleep like there is right now. Like, if you look at Huberman's podcast, 5 years ago, the stuff he's talking about, people would be like, I'm not listening to that. 3 hours
Right.
on neuroplasticities, but people are like really into it. They're starting to buy into the fact that like this is one of the pillars of health, and they understand that there's an issue with that connectivity to technology. So I think from this point forward, like, I think people will start raising kids with that in mind and really try to implement some of these behaviors and set them up for a good long-term relationship with sleep and with those devices, and figure out, how to navigate that. I
Mhm.
also think too, like, I think some of the companies like, Meta and Google and stuff, like, they recognize that we're really attached to all our devices. And I think they're trying to come up with different, form factors to eliminate some of that stuff, like the glasses and
Mhm.
more organic type technology.
Right. And I bet you after this, we'll see these glasses ads pop up all
Oh,
over our
dude, they're probably
phones.
already up right
Yeah.
now. First thing I get on is gonna be
Yeah.
red light or blue
Yeah.
light blocking glasses.
Is there truth to, if you wake up and you go right to your phone, it diminishes some of that quality sleep that you've had? Because I've been told that you should wait at least like an hour to go on to your phone. Because if you go right into the blue light, you go right into scrolling, it's doing something with your brain that is actually
Yeah. Well, so like, I mean, you want a lot of blue light when you wake up.
mm,
Ideally, natural blue light, from the sunlight,
right,
and that kind of like it sets your circadian rhythm. It's like a
right,
ticking clock, and that clock starts with like the first stimulation of light. So it's not like, it's only an evening thing. Like, it really does start ticking, from the moment you wake up. So I haven't seen anything particular. I know there's a lot of psychological stuff and the stressors and like
right.
the reactions to being on your phone. But
Mhm.
yeah, if you can avoid it for like an hour and get some natural sunlight, you'll be in a lot better place. And people don't realize too, like, that's just not about waking up. That is literally about setting up that perfect rhythm for the evening and night coming up. And it
Yeah,
does have an impact
right.
on the following night. It's not just like in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've heard Huberman talk about that too, how
Yeah.
important it is to get outside and just go on a quick walk and to see
Yeah.
the sun rising.
Yeah.
It's tough for me when I wake up at 4:10 in the morning and the sun's
Yeah.
still not up.
Yeah. And a lot of those lights too, they'll sell like those sun lamps and stuff. But one, a lot of them are crazy expensive. And two, it's just, the amount of energy that comes off of the sun is
Yeah.
outrageous. So they don't really work like the sun does.
Yeah. So where
Well,
are you?
just have like 6 Celsius and you'll be all set though.
Yeah, exactly. Take that down. Where are you spending most of your time and energy right now with your
Um,
career?
I mean, dream recovery is definitely the
Yep.
majority of my time. Been traveling a lot, so we still work with me and my wife have a company called Synergy Dryland, and we still work on the strength conditioning side and sleep and performance side with a lot of like high level swim teams.
Mhm.
So it's been a lot of travel, but yeah, I mean, we got a lot of new products we're developing, and it's been super fun.
Yeah.
It's fun because it's like, yes, it's a business, but like we're helping a lot of people, and I feel
Right.
like that's a rare opportunity to have that balance. Kind of
Yeah.
like what you do
That's
too.
a
Same thing.
win-win.
It's like, you know, obviously there's stressful moments and things go wrong, but like when you get that feedback and somebody has a life changing experience, like
Yeah.
that's why you do it.
Yeah. there's nothing better than that. If you enjoy doing it, I mean, you can't ask for anything better than that.
Yeah.
Last question I have, we'll wrap things up. What about sleep recommendations for babies, kids,
Yeah, to be fully
newborns?
transparent, like this is probably the thing I've spent the least of my time on because I don't have a kid yet. We're working on it. Mom, if you're out there, we're working on it. Got it. Noted. But you know, I think for parents, the focus has to be on quality, right? So when you have the opportunity to sleep, controlling every variable you can,
Yeah.
like the light and the sound, earplugs can be really useful. Sound, movement, like check every single box because you know it's going to be out of your control. The amount and quantity you can get, it'll at least control the quality,
Right.
And it becomes almost even more important because you're going to be running on E most of the time.
Yeah, we just got it's called a snoo, a bassinet. We just got it shipped to the house last night. It's next to the bed. We set it up, and it's, I guess, one of the best bassinets you can have. And it is attached to your phone, where you can set it on different types of modes. And I don't know,
baby world is
technology's
wild.
crazy.
I mean, yeah, like I said, we're trying, so I don't know all this stuff, but just like dipping my toe in some of the stuff, I'm like,
it's wild, man.
And there's also like trendy stuff. Isn't there like different like trendy strollers that are like cool?
Man, the stroller game is like a
I'm
whole
like,
beast.
does anybody
of a deal.
care about that? Apparently it's a thing.
Apparently
Yeah.
so.
I went stroller shopping. I thought I was at like a car dealership.
Yeah.
I mean, they have all different types of attachments. They're basically like big transformers that you take together, put apart. You can use a carry-on. You can just use it as a car seat. I mean,
Traveling makes me nervous. Like I see people traveling with kids, like babies. I'm just like, that just seems stressful.
yeah.
Well, how much does a stroller cost? I have no idea.
Those can cost like a couple grand. Yeah.
I thought they were like $45 at
Yeah, I mean,
Meyer.
Hey,
Yeah.
chump change compared to your bed.
yeah, true. True. I'm gonna look for a stroller partnership soon.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, Todd.
Yeah, man.
And where can everybody find you? All the social media stuff.
Yeah, all social media. It's Todd Anderson.
Yeah.
I'm on Instagram the most, and if anybody has any sleep questions, I'd love to help people out. Just shoot me a DM. I try to get to as many as I can, but I really do enjoy helping people. So
Awesome.
fire away.
Well, if you guys listen to this at the nighttime, turn this phone off, go to bed, and we appreciate you guys tuning in. Everybody, Todd Anderson.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.